Hi, grade 5. So today we read a realistic fiction text called Miguel in the Middle. This is on page 310 and from 310 to 313 in your Reading Writing Workshop textbook. Now, our essential question this week is, what experiences can change the way you see yourself and the world around you? All right, we're going to read about how Miguel here, who is the title character, changes his view of himself. All right, it demonstrates how the experiences around us can change the way you see yourself and the world around you. Notice the vocabulary words as we read that are highlighted in the text. Miguel in the middle. For as long as I can remember, I've always been in the middle. I'm the middle child in my family. I've always sat in the middle of the classroom in school. Even my first and last names, Miguel Martinez, start with an M, the middle letter of the alphabet. Luckily, I am also in the middle of a large circle of friends. Most of them are classmates in school. Well, at least they were until now. You see, I started middle school in September, and the transition from elementary school caused some painful changes for me. All of my closest friends go to a different middle school in the area because of the way our school district is mapped out. The only classmate I know from my old school is Jake, who's a genius in math, but since it's not my favorite subject, we never became friends. Another big change is that I'm no longer situated in the middle of the classroom. My seat is now in the front row. Also, my new teachers shovel tons more homework at us, especially in math, than we used to get. So you can imagine why my heart wasn't exactly dancing when middle school began. So we learn here that Miguel is used to being in the middle. He is the middle child in his family. He sits in the middle of his classrooms, and he is in the middle of a group of friends. However, here there is a problem that going to the new school has caused some painful changes for Miguel, mainly because he is no longer with his close friends. Okay, in elementary school he sat in the middle of the classroom, but in his new middle school, he sits in the front row. The school also gives a lot more homework than he is used to, especially in math, and we know that math is not his favorite subject. By the end of October, Jake and I had become good friends. It happened because I was so hopeless trying to do my math homework. I have a disdain for math, especially fractions. We said disdain means dislike. To me, fractions are a foreign language. I may as well be trying to learn Greek or Latin. So one day I approached Jake after school. "Hey, Jake," I began. "I was wondering if you could help you with your math homework, right?" He said, completing my sentence. "Sure, I'd be happy to help you, Miguel." I was stunned because, to be truthful, so he was shocked. I wasn't sure until that moment if Jake even knew my name. And yet here he was, happy to save me from drowning in my sea of math problems. That night, Jake and I had a study session, and it was time well spent. I must admit that Jake's a superb math teacher. We said superb means excellent. He used slices of a pizza pie to explain the idea of eighths and sixteenths. And by the end of the night, I finally understood why 8/16 is the same as 1/2. The next day in class, I was even able to answer one of the math problems our teacher put on the chalkboard. She was surprised when I raised my hand, and guess what? So was I. They say time flies when you're having fun. And I guess it's really true. I can't believe winter vacation is almost here. The school days have been flying by like a jet plane. I suppose it's because I'm a much more focused student. So he concentrates now more in math, especially in math, than I ever was before. Until this year, I always look forward to the prospect of a school break. Now, I usually feel sad that I'll be away from middle school for 2 weeks. The other day, the most amazing thing happened when our teacher gave us a math brain teaser. She asked, if you wrote all the numbers from 1 to 100, how many times would you write a 9? The question was harder than it seemed. Most of the students said 10, although some clever kids said 11, because they realized that 99 has 2 nines, not just one. But Jake and I were the only students with the correct answer, 20. Everyone else forgot to count all the 90s. Jake and I planned to hang out together during winter break. He promised to show me the math museum downtown. It won't be just us, however, since all my new friends from middle school will come too. You see, even though I now have a completely different perspective on math, some things haven't changed. I'm still in the middle of a large circle of friends. So here, how did Miguel change from the beginning to the end in this text? So how does he feel about math at the beginning? It's his least favorite subject. He dislikes math. He has a disdain for math, right? And then towards the end, he is much more focused, especially in his math class. He volunteers to answer, and he correctly answers the brain teaser. Okay, so we can say that learning math here helped Miguel in many ways, right? He was challenged by math at his new school, and Jake helped him with it, and then this gave Miguel more confidence, and it gave him a new friend. All right, next we completed page 201 in your turn practice workbook. Now here are only some sample sentences. It says here, finish each sentence using the vocabulary word provided. What does perspective mean? So we went over these vocabulary words during our session, and we said a perspective is a point of view. Okay, so here's a sample sentence. We looked at the problem from a different perspective in order to find a solution. Number 2 is disdain, dislike. When he said he didn't like any of my favorite things, I gave him a look of disdain. Now, guys, you are free to write these sentences or come up with your own sentences. Number 3, superb. She liked all the food, but she thought the lasagna was superb. We said something that is superb is excellent. So she liked all of the food, but she found the lasagna to be the most amazing. Number 4, transition. My little sister will soon make the transition from kindergarten to first grade. We said transition is a change in condition, a change in form from one form to another, or from one condition to another. Number 5 is genius. We each have our own talents, but she is a genius when it comes to woodworking. So a genius is someone who is incredibly intelligent or who is very talented at something. Number 6 is stunned, and we said a synonym for stunned is shocked. When the best runner slipped on the track, the crowd was stunned by what they had witnessed. Number 7, prospect. After working hard all year, she looked forward to the prospect of relaxing on the beach. So here this means a prospect is when you look forward to something, when you expect something to happen, okay, after waiting. Number 8 is focused, and we said focused is when you are concentrated on, when you concentrate on one thing, okay? This is when you focus on it. The dog was sitting at the window, totally focused on the squirrel cracking nuts on the deck, okay? So think about when you focus on something, you concentrate on it. The dog here was watching the squirrel, right? He was focused on the squirrel. And the last thing we completed is page 206. Now here we have a small selection. This is a realistic fiction text called The Spelling Bee. Gabe stood in the wings of the high school auditorium. The stage was huge, with chairs for 45 students. There were 3,000 people in the audience. This is very different from our school's auditorium, he thought. Ours holds only 300 people, and our stage isn't big enough to hold a fly. Gabe had won his school's spelling bee, but he doubted he would do well here. I'll do the best I can, Gabe said to himself as he stepped onto the stage and focused on the spelling bee. By the end of the day, Gabe had made it to the state finals, and he felt a lot better about himself. All right, how do we know that this text is realistic fiction? Number 1, what makes the characters, events, and dialogue realistic? So the characters here are like real people, people that we see every day and interact with every day. The events are ones that also can happen in real life and do happen, right? And the dialogue sounds the way that real people speak. Number 2, write an example of figurative language found in the text. Explain why it is figurative language. So in this text we have a hyperbole, and remember when we read Davy Crockett Saves the World, we read several examples of hyperbole. Now what is hyperbole? Hyperbole is extreme exaggeration. Okay, so here we have the hyperbole. Our stage isn't big enough to hold a fly. Right? Why is this a hyperbole? Because it's extremely exaggerated. Gabe is exaggerating the smallness of the stage, right? So the stage is small, but it's not possible for it to be too small to hold a fly. So this is hyperbole. Number 3, who is the narrator of the story? And explain how you know. The narrator we know is somebody on the outside because someone is referring to Gabe. Okay, so here it says, so there are third person pronouns throughout the text that are used to describe Gabe. So this is how we know this is third person. Number 4, what descriptive detail from the text tells how Gabe felt after the spelling bee? And how does this help you experience this text as realistic? So here we have at the end, the narrator says Gabe had made it to the state finals and he felt a lot better about himself. So here this helps us to see and to feel how Gabe felt, right? To hear how he felt. Okay, and his feelings seem real, right? So this is something that everyday people experience, and these are all the features of realistic fiction.